Hello, everyone. Had someone told me a month ago that I would be making this video, I would have said to them, don't be silly, impossible. I don't believe it. And in many ways, as I make this video, I still don't. But a month ago today, the world, at least the world of a lot of friends, of a very loving family, was changed forever with the death of a dear friend of ours, John Robert Kane. John Kane, and known by many different names from the vast number of friends he had. The names that were most familiar to me for John were Johnners, Kaner, JK, and if there's names that he was known by that I haven't mentioned, please pop them down below in the comments, because one thing for sure, I think we all learned over the last awfully difficult month is the sheer number of friends John had. And I, for one, was extremely lucky to have been able to know John. And again, it's very, very hard to believe that on this day last month, he died tragically, quickly, suddenly, at 41. And it has left a devastated family and friends who just have been so shook. So I suppose I wanted in this video just to share with you, and many of you knew John, the things that I saw in him. And in many ways, as we see all the lovely comments, these were things that so many people saw in him. And the qualities he had, the love he gave, the compassion he had, and the openness he fostered, and the relationships and the connections he made possible by virtue of being in this world. For me, I met John in 1997. John had come to Terenure College, where I was in secondary school, and relatively quickly we got chatting. And you never think then, particularly when we were both at the time in fifth year, that we would then be lifelong friends. You don't always think of that, but it came to pass that we did. We became very close, and it was through knowing John that my friendship circle grew in an inordinate way, and particularly meeting some of his closest friends, who I'm proud to say are now my friends, and you all know who you are. And we have, in that time, journeyed together, been friends together, and have all been shook by this truly together. And over the years, as the relationship bonded and grew with John, it was so clear how many qualities he had as an individual. He was really someone to observe and someone to reflect on in terms of his care for people, his openness to people, his great ability, honorable ability to have such strength in his friendships. He didn't fall out with people, and never did I hear him speak in a bad way about someone, in a non-caring way. Everything he did and every way he was in many, many ways the essence of the Christian, humanistic, all-loving way that many people aspire to, but perhaps don't get to. And so, in the short time since he has died, there have been floods of comments, and I hope, and we hope, and I think it has certainly, for the family to see that being very supportive. And the comments, when you see so many comments, what came through clearly for me were many themes. And when you see a theme, you know all those comments are speaking to those genuine traits of something. And when you look at the sheer volume and the nature of what is articulated in those comments, all I can say is hear, hear. His kindness, his generosity, and his openness were just huge. He had a huge heart. He taught us many things. And I think at difficult times like this, it's important to take something from the awfulness. And for me, it means embracing the qualities and trying to do our best to emulate the sorts of qualities John has. And I say has because we carry the person with us, even though we can no longer touch, hug, be with them as much as we want. So around the time of John's death, I'd been doing a bit of teaching and preparing, and something struck me from two avenues. And I thought it would be really important just to kind of put them out here. So John would have been an absolutely excellent therapist. Okay? And I say that because in teaching, in the teaching I do, and I was struck with this after John's death, we spend 4 years teaching people how to become therapists. And in that 4 years, we teach them many things. We teach them skills of therapy. We teach them theoretical orientations in therapy. But as humanistic therapists, teaching the humanistic school of therapy, there's 3 things we need every student to get a handle on that many don't. And John had these things naturally. And the things that stand out for me when I think of John is genuineness. He didn't put on an act. He was who he was. He didn't try to be a different thing for different people. Second thing that stood out is that John didn't have friendships based on conditions. He loved people for who they were. It wasn't conditional upon some set of criteria being met. And the third thing was his empathy. He had huge regard and understanding, even if he hadn't gone through something, for the way in which someone else could be feeling in that situation. Now, in the area of therapy, we call those 3 things the core conditions, but we use 3 different names for them, or 3 names. One is called congruence, which means being genuine, being real. He was real by nature. The second one is the unconditional positive regard. We don't judge people. We hold them as they are. And the third part is being empathetic. Knowing that we're not going through what they're going through, but we can listen, hear, and be with them as if we were in their shoes, but without ever losing the as if, because it's not our situation. And when I think back to John and the conversations I would have had with John and the way he would be, I think everyone would agree. He embodied those perfectly. He had those. As far as I know, he never trained in those, you know. But he was naturally good with people. And I think it was those qualities that meant so many people came to John, and John embraced so many people, and so many people liked John. And John equally showed so much love towards them. So for me, I just thought that those things that we sometimes have to try to teach, for me, John had those qualities. And then just before he died, it just popped up on one of my social media feeds, a book called The Four Agreements. Now, I had read this book a couple of years back, actually longer than that. The Four Agreements was a book written by Don Miguel Ruiz and Janet Mills. And the book was based upon the Toltec ancient wisdom beliefs, in the idea of it offered us a code to live by. And it advocates freedom from self-limiting beliefs, okay? Believing that it's often these self-limiting beliefs that cause a lot of suffering. And it popped up just as a meme about a month ago. And it immediately brought me back to when I read that book. And what was interesting was these four agreements, when I looked at them, again, were things that our dear friend John seemed to embody. And I'm going to take a moment just to read the four out. There's little sub-points in each one, but the four of them do really capture it. And they are things that we all would aspire to live to. But I must say, John Cain is probably the only person I know who I could say embodies them as close as I can think. And if we all practice these, or at least if we all aspired and made through our action attempts to live by these, we'd be living closer to what's right and closer to John. And here's what they are. I'm not sure if John ever knew about these, but he didn't need to. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And what that means is speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using your word to speak against yourself or about others. John never gossiped about other people or spoke against them. And use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. And that's what John did. His word was towards truth and love and care. Number two, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. So when people do things and when people act in ways, that's their, we say in therapy, that's their issue. And it truly is. John had that ability to not take things overly to heart. The third one is don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and trauma. And it says with just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Okay? And the last one, number 4, is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you're healthy as opposed to when you're sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. It just came to mind, those 4 things, again, that our good friend John really embodied. And we were all so much richer for knowing him, and so much poorer now that he's not with us. But if possible, if we can take what he's given us and hold on to that, and ask ourselves in situations, what would John do? Or what would John think? I think we could be doing a lot of good like that and honoring John as we should. John did not like conflict. He did not like bad feeling. And he loved amity. And those are things in this very, very short life we all have that we all should embrace. And he did that. For any of us who think about John's qualities, I think on reflection we realize no wonder he was so much loved. No wonder he was so much liked. He was the true humanist, that people are good at their core. People, given the right opportunity, grow. And everyone deserves to be welcomed. So before I finish up, I want to read out a poem that I wrote for John, which again was read at his funeral by his, in a beautiful way, by his brother Stephen. Due to restrictions, Stephen needed to read it out, and he read it out beautifully. I would like to take this opportunity to read it out, as I was fortunate enough to be able to go and attend. And it was a real honor to be asked by his family to attend and to represent the friends of John. The poem, those of you who would have seen it before it was read out, and since know perhaps the informing history to it. And I suppose I tried to capture in about 4 paragraphs here a little bit of how I knew John. So here goes. In 97, standing tall, he walked the halls so lively. I met him there. We said hello, a friendship made so timely. We took our lunch, walked the yard. Fishing was our thing. Maths, religion, Irish class, and poems he would sing. Those early days I well recall. I will from this day on. That openness and carefree way, the friend I knew as John. Then school ended and we did part, but not for time extended. He phoned me up, asked to meet, and once again befriended. It wasn't long, he didn't wait. I met his friends and kin. They welcomed me, became my friends, a bond was built within. This was him, a link for us, one that still goes on. An open book, such a warming look, the friend I knew as John. A trip abroad was always good, a random place to go. This or that, here or there, going with the flow. A group around was always sound, good times on and on. That lovely smile that would beguile the friend I knew as John. More recent years kept the cheers, great friendships made by him. A movie line just in time always made us grin. But sadly now, as he is gone, we grieve his loss so deeply. No words are here to meet the year and give a solace neatly. A heart that was so giving, a love that went on and on. How lucky we all were to have the friend I knew as John. So that was the poem. And in this very, very short video, I've not done him justice, but I just wanted to make it as an account of my memory of him. And I think many people watching this will relate to that. To Pat and Tony, his mum and dad, and to Stephen, Helen, David, and the family, we're thinking of you. It's such a dreadful, shocking, gut-wrenching thing. And you're in our thoughts. Thank you.